This episode of the Quest for Quality podcast is brought to you by Thrive Market. Thrive Market is on a mission to make healthy living easy and affordable for everyone. To receive a special discount code for 15% off of your first order, email Tim at inboundpodcasting.com. Welcome to the Quest for Quality podcast with keynote speaker Joe Higgins.
In terms of Quest for Quality, this is really about living a quality life, having a quality career. If you always aim for quality in your life, you will almost always find success at some point in the longer term.
For decades, Joe has shared his Quest for Quality message with thousands of business professionals across the country.
Some of you may know our keynote speaker. I would tell you he's a legend in the industry, and it's great to see him back with us.
I've had the privilege and honor introducing some very famous speakers to you. They were all great speakers and showed you how a winning attitude brings success. But our next speaker is even better. Joe Higgins has walked in our shoes. Joe's the only speaker in our history that we've invited to talk to us 2 years in a row.
The Quest for Quality podcast presents a universal message under the umbrella of 4 areas of Joe's unprecedented experience and expertise. Leadership, building healthy teams, customer service, understanding the American economy.
I'm trying to let people get that message that it's taken me 40 years to learn. I've had a lot of experience. I've gone through major levels of an organization, have trained and worked with and supervised thousands of people over my career and created leaders at the Whirlpool Corporation today that are running the company. So hopefully what I bring here in this thing is allowing people to live a better life and a better quality of life.
Welcome to the maiden voyage of the Quest for Quality with Joe podcast. My name is Tim Edwards, and I will be your host each week for conversations with the founder of Quest for Quality, Joe Higgins. So what is Quest for Quality? Well, it's a universal message Joe Higgins has crafted over his almost 4 decades with the Whirlpool organization as a national director of sales for North America. A universal message? Well, yes, because the information that you obtain here in the Quest for Quality with Joe podcast can be utilized by the majority of leaders and employees of American corporations, small business owners, and even individuals who are looking for proven methods that helped shape the Whirlpool organization into a Fortune 150 company, in large part as a result of the leadership provided by Joe Higgins. Joe has decided to spend his much-deserved retirement as a convention keynote speaker around the country, sharing his experiences and Q4Q principles and strategies packaged within the following topics: leadership and creating high-performance cultures, building healthy teams, customer service, and the state and future of the American economy. All of Joe's presentations are laden with positivity, and I am sure that you'll find it quite contagious as I have. Notice that Joe speaks about 4 different topics in his Quest for Quality presentations, which explains the number 4 in Quest for Quality. However, Joe keeps adding to his list of topics that he presents to his audience and here in the podcast. So thanks for joining us here on this inaugural episode of the Quest for Quality with Joe podcast. And without further ado, let's meet Joe Higgins, who takes us back to the beginning of his career when he embarked upon his own quest for quality.
Well, I started my career with Whirlpool after I finished my first 7 years with General Electric in the appliance industry. I started as a sales guy, running around all over Southern California selling product, made my way up, got a couple of promotions, and ended up managing Southern California at first. At that point in my career, I was doing marketing and merchandising and sales and you name it. We were doing just about everything. I even had the warehouse and was involved in distribution at the time. As I began to get promoted, I think in 1986 or 87 or so, I took over the Western region for Whirlpool Corporation, the western half of the United States. And by 2000, I ended up taking over the whole country. And I managed that until I retired in 2012.
So upon your retirement, it looks as though you wanted to change the trajectory of your life a little bit. You were very successful with Whirlpool, and now you want to take some of the principles that you applied throughout your career and teach those principles to other maybe young executives or small business owners. What are you looking to do now in your retirement?
Well, it's funny. Most of my career, I was involved with a very large organization, speaking to parts of my distribution all over the United States. I had everything from New York to Los Angeles, from Miami to Seattle, and everywhere in between. And I spoke to groups that entire time. When I finally retired in 2012, I got invited to speak at a meeting of independent business people, and that led to a career in public speaking, and that's what I'm doing now. And I've taken what I learned in business, all the years of leading an organization and teaching people about leadership and culture, customer service, and things like that, and teaching them those qualities to create a better organization for Whirlpool. And I think we did. I think when I left, that organization felt like they had lost one of their great leaders at the time. And since that time, now I've been doing public speaking for the last couple of years, and it's been really a lot of fun and enjoyed it a lot.
And when you say you enjoyed, what is it about public speaking? I'm sure it's not just coming up and presenting your message, but there must be something about being in retirement, having gone down the road as a professional, and to take that material, give it to young people and see what they do with that information. What type of joy do you extract out of that?
The best part of being a public speaker and the work that I'm doing today is that when I'm done, having people come up to me afterwards in the audience, and maybe people have seen me more than once even, and they'll tell me that they've adopted some of the principles, some of the ideas of leadership. They've seen greater success. I had one instance where I spoke to a group at Whirlpool, as a matter of fact, after my retirement, that was like number 7th in the country in terms of their sales for that year. And after I spoke to them, the manager called me and she said, we've moved from 7th to 2nd in the country in a little over 4 months since you spoke to us. And she said, I believe it was the result of what you did. Those are the kind of things that bring great joy in all the work that I do. And I get most satisfaction from that.
Tell us a little bit about the quest for quality. When you speak to these organizations and groups of people, you have, how many different topics do you have?
Actually, I have 5 subjects. I do one on the economy, which really is normally a keynote speech in front of a very large audience and conventions typically. That's what I get hired for there. But I also do one on leadership, which I've done over the years in my career, anywhere from senior leaders at a director director level, all the way down to college students, and everywhere in between. Leadership's an important part of all parts of life, not just business. I mean, leadership you use in your families and use in communities and wherever you are. I also have one on culture, how to create a high performance culture. Most people don't realize that they are creating a culture if they own a business or if they have their families. They're doing it, but they don't realize that it's not something that you do consciously. That's an important one, and I love doing that one. That's probably one of my favorite speeches. I also do one on customer service that gives examples of how you can be better at treating and creating customer loyalty in business. And then my last was on health, which is a passion of mine, creating a situation where people can think about their health and improve it and go on and live long, healthy lives.
So what we are looking to accomplish with the Quest for Quality podcast is to give little snippets of some of these talks that you give, some of these speeches that you have, but they all do kind of work synergistically and they work hand in hand.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you own a business, if you have a family, if you want to be successful in your life, all of these things kind of work together. Learning great leadership and learning how to be a good leader, learning what creates a very strong culture, learning how to give customer service in your business, important parts of what we all do in business. In addition to that, having healthy teams. I mean, there's no doubt that a lot of sports organizations do a lot around training and nutrition, things like that. A healthy team is a better team and is a more successful team. I've learned that in my career, and I've worked very hard at getting donuts, for example, out of and Cokes and things like that out of meetings and bringing in healthy foods for people. And I've seen over the years hundreds of people make massive changes that have really created a different direction in their lives and made them better employees and more successful employees as well.
Joe, as the founder of Quest for Quality, what are you looking to accomplish with this podcast and with the messages that you spread across the country to various organizations looking to tap into your knowledge?
Well, Tim, I believe that this message really is a universal message. When you're talking about leadership and culture and health and all those things, these are things that everybody can use no matter what point in their lives they're in, whether you're in business or whether you're running a family. Everybody can use these things that I put in Quest for Quality. In terms of Quest for Quality, this is really about living a quality life, having a quality career. If you always aim for quality in your life, you will almost always find success at some point in the longer term. So that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to let people get that message that it's taken me, 40 years to learn. And I've had a lot of experience. I've gone through major levels of an organization, have trained and worked with and supervised thousands of people over my career and created leaders at the Whirlpool Corporation today that are running the company. So hopefully what I bring here in this thing is allowing people to live a better life and a better quality of life.
So which type of organizations will benefit most from your message? You mentioned here that somebody down to just running their own family to small businesses. What type of organizations have you addressed in the past and are you looking to speak to in the future?
My favorite thing to do is talk at conventions, because at conventions you get a broad mix of people, from independent business owners who own small businesses to very large organizations that are sometimes in audiences. I mean, it's not unusual for me to speak to a group at a convention where there are vendors as well as people that are attending the convention, from small businesses to major organizations, from companies like General Electric and Samsung all the way down to kids that are in college. I think this message applies to all of them across the board. Anybody can learn from someone who spent this many years running this large of an organization with the principles that I put into Quest for Quality.
And if someone were to visit your website, qforqwithjoe.com, they'll see the various organizations that you've had the opportunity to speak in front of, large conventions down to Rotary clubs.
Right.
So it's the whole gamut that you're opening your services to.
I have, yeah. And like I said, I've spoken in front of Fortune 500 companies. I've spoken in front of conventions. I've done Rotary here locally in the city that I live in as part of their charities. So I do those kind of things just as a part of a community function. And I've spoken to kids. So everywhere along the way, I think that this is a message that is universal and translates to everybody.
Now, let's break this down in terms of the topics that you cover, actually. We mentioned this briefly in the past, but I'd like to drill down a little bit more into the American economy. Why do you speak about the American economy? What are you looking to accomplish? What type of shift in a person's mind are you looking to make with your message?
Well, we in America, we have different news organizations that I don't think always give the real perspective of what's going on. I know for the last 6 years since the recession in 2008, I've spoken about what's really coming in this country, what the economy is going to look like, and the numbers that I've given have been pretty much right on target during all that time. I like to talk to business people, especially because they get all the bad news, and they take what they hear on television, they take that to their people, and everybody in the organization gets down. And what I bring is a look at the real numbers, the leading economic indicators, and what they've done the last 6 years, and we've seen almost an upward trajectory since 2008. And every year it's gotten a little bit better. And I've spoken about that. And I think I bring that to the conventions and allow everybody then to sort of raise their level.
We've talked about your career a little bit, but let's also talk about your education. You're an economist.
Right. Well, when you do this kind of work and the kind of presentation I do, it actually requires me to update it every single day. I get reports from UBS and Citibank, Goldman Sachs. I get them from the business schools at like UCLA. They put out a great forecast every year. I get it from Stanford, the University of Pennsylvania, the Wharton School of Business. I also get them from the National Association of Home Builders. I get 22 reports that I put out on my desk. I lay out on my desk. And when I sit down and get ready to prepare my next year's look at what's coming over the next 12 months, I take all those reports, I assimilate all the information, and then I talk about it in front of groups. I don't go out with opinion. This is not Joe Higgins' opinion about what the economy is going to look like. This is an accumulation of a lot of different input from major organizations that spend 12 months putting this stuff together. And when I speak in front of audiences, I do not stand in front of them and give them my opinion. I stand in front of them and give them the hard, cold facts and the trending and the trend lines and what it looks like. And I let them make their decision as to what in the longer term is going to happen in this country.
And coming up in podcast 2 of the Quest for Quality podcast, we're going to take a historical look at how and why the recession of 2008 started, where we are now, and where our country is headed. Quick little hint, Joe, if you don't mind sharing, up or down?
Well, that's a great question, Tim. For 6 years, I've been speaking, and some people call me Mr. Optimistic or Mr. Positive, and I've been speaking to groups, and I've been saying from 2008 that each year we were going to get a little bit better until 2015. And 2015 to 2025, the decade ahead, as I call it, are going to be the golden years of business for most people. It's hard for me to believe that we're here now after all these years. At Whirlpool, they named my presentations and my talks Higgonomics, and I've used that in my presentations ever since. So I believe that it's up. And I believe that it's up for the longer term in a very positive way for America.
Looking forward to hearing more about Higgonomics coming up in podcast number 2. But let's go back now to one of the other topics that you cover, and it's leadership.
When you think about leadership, think about my career where I've spent, since 1981, I've spent in management. And I've led teams for almost 35 years in my career. And I've led them anywhere from a small team of 10 people all the way up to an organization that had more than 1,200 people. And during that time, it's been my job, I think, to create leaders in organizations. A lot of people think that leadership is about, for example, someone like me getting people to follow me, out the front door and do the things that they need to do. And that's not it at all. In big organizations, you need to create leadership among everybody. Everybody needs to become a leader. And that was my job. I don't want people to follow me. I want people to take what I say and become leaders themselves and act like I would act or act like their supervisors would act when they're out on the job and doing the things for the corporation. That's the whole basis of leadership, is creating leaders in an organization. And
creating a high-performance culture within that organization. That's kind of a subtopic for leadership.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you think about what creates great organizations, it's great cultures. And the same principles apply. Great organizations work because leaders give their vision and their view of what culture is, and people begin to follow that unconsciously. They see it, they feel it, it's around them. They take on the culture, and then they take on the leadership characteristics that make them successful in the long term.
And you can actually break down some of these principles that you've applied throughout your decades of experience to create a positive culture within an organization.
Oh, absolutely. One of my presentations, again, one of my favorite presentations is the one on culture, where I talk about organizations like the Ritz-Carlton or Disney or companies that have built really great cultures and have been known for the cultures. A lot of people don't know Whirlpool to that extent, the inside workings of it. But we spent a lot of time on culture, working on it and creating a high-performance culture, one in which people realize that in order to succeed and make the company great and from what it was being the best you can be every single day. And that's part of what our culture was high performance every single day.
And the lifeblood of the American economy, we're often told, is small business. And there are more and more small businesses popping up now as people have been laid off in the past, and it has been their only option to provide income for their family. And providing great customer service is that one element, one of the many, that's necessary for these businesses to succeed.
Well, yeah, I have a special place in my heart for small businesses. I mean, in America, people that take risks, that go out on their own and create jobs, and really those are the job creators. The key to a small business is great customer service. The word of mouth that you get from in your community, that's invaluable. And when you're taking care of the customer and you're creating customer loyalty, the reason for someone to come back to your business, that changes the game in a big way. What I teach really is different than what a lot of people are doing today about customer service. Most of the presentations that I see as I travel and I see people talk about customer service, they talk about Apple Computer. And they say things like, you should be more like Apple. Well, that's easy to do if you have $150 billion on your balance sheets like they do. But most people don't have that. And so what you really have to do is understand what the reality is in a small business. I spent 45 years in this position getting to know, meeting people who run businesses from anywhere from, $1 million businesses to $150 million businesses, doesn't matter, anywhere in between. And I've spoken to all of them, and I've made my career out of that. You're successful based on how well you do at taking care of your customer, creating customer loyalty, and having that customer come back into your store and want to buy from you.
And taking it a step further now into another one of the topics that you talk about, Joe, is backing away from the customer now and focusing on your team and creating healthy teams within your organization or your family, and how important that has to be.
When you say you have a team, the most important thing for that team is to be healthy. Stress-free environment where you're feeling pretty good every single day. You go out and you work hard. You have motivation. That all comes from being healthy. If I asked people on this podcast to finish this sentence, if you don't have your health, you don't have
anything.
typically that's the answer I get. And that is the correct answer. And you don't. And in the same way in business. And I don't care whether it's a family, a business, or a corporation, or a government, or whatever. If you have healthy people that have taken care of themselves their whole lives in the right way, that's where you win. And you win when you create health throughout the corporations. And I've done that, and I know that it works.
So let's for a moment talk about you, Joe Higgins, personally, if you don't mind, because somebody could say, well, you can spout off all the numbers you want about, which foods to eat and which type of culture to set up, in the break room or within an organization. But let's talk a little bit about your own personal health. So there's some credibility behind what you're saying, Joe. I think it's very important.
Well, absolutely. I don't talk about this enough. And people that know me know that for the last 60 years of my life, I have done everything I can to maintain my health in a way that is top notch as far as I'm concerned. I have been an athlete my whole life. I've competed at a professional level in a number of different sports. I've done marathons and triathlons. I played tennis at a professional level, racquetball at a professional level. I played baseball. In my career, I had decided a long time ago that if I was going to be really good at sports, I had to eat right and sleep right and take care of my health. And the reason why today at 66 years old, I can still do most things that I could do when I was 20 is because I've taken care of myself. As a 66-year-old man, I've never taken a prescription drug. I've been with my wife now for 15 years. She's never seen me sick. I rarely ever get a cold. I haven't had the flu since I was in college. And it's all about how you take care of yourself. It's about how you eat. It's about how you exercise. And the presentation that I do on health isn't a whole lot about eating. It's about chronic diseases in America and how they're killing more than 2 million people a year, and how you can prevent chronic diseases from coming after you, like cancer and heart disease and high blood pressure and diabetes. These are horrible diseases. And if we don't get a handle on it in America, it'll destroy us at some point, because everybody in America today is running scared from all these various diseases that are killing people.
And not just on the personal level, but also from an organizational standpoint as well, too. What are the benefits to having a healthy team for a large organization?
Well, first of all, you have fewer sick days. People aren't as stressed. People don't make decisions very well when they're under stress. And when you're not sleeping right, and you're not exercising, and you're not feeling good, and you're not eating right, it creates a higher level of stress. That creates a situation where you don't make decisions very well, and that hurts an organization. I just believe that people are up and motivated when they're feeling good. It's like, think about a sports team. When you have a sports team, they don't sit around and eat donuts in the morning. They go out. They do their wind sprints. They do their weights. They practice. They get everything right so that when they go out on that day to play a game, they're ready to play. And sales teams are the same way. If your salespeople aren't ready to go out and fight that battle every day, they're going to fail, and somebody else is going to beat them.
Quest for Quality with Joe Higgins. You just got a quick snapshot of the topics that Joe covers on the speaking circuit. Of course, here in the podcast, we are just scratching the surface of the content Joe covers in his presentations. And if you'd like to have Joe drill down on the topics of leadership, the American economy, customer service, or building healthy teams, put Joe on a plane. Bring him out to talk to your team, organization, or industry at an upcoming event, meeting, or convention. To check Joe's availability, visit www.qforqwithjoe.com. That's www.Q4Q with Joe.com. Click on Request Joe, and he'll get right back with you. Thanks again for listening in. We'll catch you next time for another edition of the Quest for Quality with Joe podcast.